testamentary.
Bingo. Very good. Okay. So, I got my recording now on, so we missed the first 5 minutes. I apologize for those at home. A valid inter vivos gift must be delivered during life, and a testamentary gift comes after the person dies. Now, there's a really important difference between, Jordan, between inter vivos and testamentary gifts. What's the big difference if you're the person giving it? What must you do for a testamentary gift that you don't need to do for a...
You have to have two witnesses.
Very good. Because of risks of fraud, because there's a risk of fraud for the testamentary gifts, the person's dead, right? You need to have witnesses, usually 2. They got to be in writing also. But for a inter vivos gift, you don't need the witnesses. In fact, all you need for an inter vivos gift is a conveyance. Words like this. Okay? But here's the catch. In order to determine if it's inter vivos or testamentary, you have to know, is this going to be delivered in life or in death? Because think about it this way, right? Let's say you want to give a testamentary gift, but you say, aha, I am giving this to my father. Sorry, the father says, I'm giving this to my son now. I'm giving it to you now. But he doesn't actually give it to him. He gives it to him after his death. That's called fraud, right? If you try to pretend a testamentary gift is inter vivos, you get in trouble. How do you get in trouble? It's not valid. So if you try and give a gift during life that's really a gift for after death, the courts will say, nope, 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 you don't get it. And then it goes into the probate process. You have to go to will. There's other sorts of things. Okay? Everyone with me so far? All right, so when I ask, is this a valid inter vivos conveyance, I'm asking you, is this actually a gift in which the interest is delivered during the life of the giver? That's what I'm asking you, right? So is it a valid inter vivos gift? Is this actually transferring the interest, conveying the interest during the life of the giver? That's your question, right? I mean, again, I'm speaking in a language that doesn't make any sense. It's a valid inter vivos conveyance. I'm telling you what that means. Is it valid? Is it actually delivering the interest during the life of the giver? All right? Name tag, sorry. Yes, Megan, thank you. So, Megan, is this a valid inter vivos conveyance?
No.
Okay, why do you say no?
When it says heirs, to me that implies they don't know specifically who those people are yet.
Okay.
So if it would have said son of my daughter
Well, does it say son?
and his heirs.
Uh-huh.
So the last piece.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this question. What does it mean, Megan, painting from dad to dad for his life? What the hell does that mean? What does that mean? I'm giving you words that just probably seem incoherent, but what am I trying to convey to you here? Painting from dad to dad. Sorry, painting from dad to dad for his life. What on earth am I saying there?
Well, the dad is going to have ownership of the painting for his life.
Okay, so so let me ask you this question, Megan, right? And I'll go to Neiman in a minute. But before this conveyance, what was the father's relationship to the painting?
It was his.
Be more precise.
He was the owner of the painting.
Owner in what respect? What's that
It
word?
was in his possession.
Ooh. Neiman, what's that word I'm looking for? To describe the father's interest before this conveyance.
Present.
No? Oh, it's a present interest, you're right.
Absolute interest.
Ooh.
Fee simple.
Fee simple. Very good, right? So there's this phrase, right? Which is introduced in the reading today. Fee simple. You'll sometimes see it's fee simple absolute. I don't say that, so you just call it fee simple, right? What fee simple means is you have the entire bundle of sticks. Right? Remember, say the red marker, the blue marker, right? You have the present interest, that is, you have it for your entire life, but you also control the future interest, meaning you can dispose of it after you die. When you have the present and the future interest, both of them together, Neiman's exactly right. You have what's called a fee simple. Okay? Don't get thrown off by the vocabulary. We'll have, by the end of the semester, probably a dozen of these different estates. Well, probably a dozen of them. We'll start off simple. No pun intended, right? Simple, easy. So you start off with a fee simple, right? So Brittany. So we start off here. The father had a fee simple, right? But then just go comma by comma, right? To the first comma. Painting from dad to dad for his life. What is the effect of that first clause up to the comma? What's going on there, Brittany? Okay. Well, the dad had fee simple. What happens to the father's interest after that first clause? No. Just stop at the comma. We'll go one clause at a time, right? By the way, the way to read these, like, is comma by comma. Stop at every comma and ask what's going on here, right? So, Brittany, up to the first comma, what's going on there? Just the first comma. Painting from dad to dad for his life. He had fee simple. Neiman's right. What happened after that?
It's a life estate.
But the father had a fee simple. What happened to the fee simple? We had a fee simple. I told you. Neiman's correct. What happened after that first clause, up to the comma? What did the father do?
He will no longer have it after his life?
Yeah. The father had, again, with a fee simple absolute, you have both the present and the future interest, right? You control both. You control the present and the future interest. Brittany, after this clause, what did the father give up?
His future interest.
Very good. That's right. So imagine this, right? You had a fee simply of the full bundle of sticks. You separate them. You had the present interest and the future interest together. But after this, he's saying, look, I'm dad. I have fee simple. I'm going to keep it just for my life. I'm going to keep the present interest. But when you separate them, Celeste, where does the future interest go? To the son. To the son. Right? Do it again. The father had fee simple, the full bundle of sticks. He had the present and the future interest. Through this conveyance, he separated them. He reserved for himself a life estate. That's he keeps it for his life. That's the present interest. But he gave to his son right away the future interest. And again, the future interest is delivered immediately. Not when the guy dies. The son has a future interest in his back pocket. The son can sell it to anyone. He can sell his future interest, right? But he has it. Everyone with me so far? Lance?
So the son has a future interest until the dad dies, and once he dies, does he have a future interest?
So here's what happens, right? After this conveyance, the father has a present interest and the son has a future interest, right? Oh, his second children, right? After this conveyance, the father has a present interest, son has a future interest. Father dies. What happens to the present interest? It goes back to the son. And the son now has a fee simple. Again, after the father's death, the son has a fee simple. And how do we know the son gets a fee simple? This language which Megan jumped on, and his heirs. Right? When you see the language, and his heirs, that is language that means fee simple. It doesn't literally mean, and his heirs get it. It's code, right? It's like an expression that after the father's death, when the life is over, the son now has it in fee simple. And the son has it in fee simple. You can convey it, sell it to an auction, whatever else. But the point that I really want you to get here, and this is probably the hardest part, you start off with a fee simple. The father has a fee simple. He can then chop it up, separate his sticks, keep the present interest for himself, and give the future interest to his son. And the son holds on to that future interest until the father dies, at which point the sticks return. He has a full bundle. Jolene and then Celeste?
My question has to do with the conveyance. So when you're talking about a valid conveyance, it can be either the present or the future interest.
Oh, I'm going to get there in 1 minute. I am not done there, but I'll get there, I promise. I'm sorry, Celeste, you had a question?
It's kind of like a hypo. So say that the son has a future interest, but he sells it to a third party, but tells him you'll get future interest after a certain date. But I know that the third person will get the future interest immediately. So say that the son sells it, the son can never ever have a present interest in it, right?
If the son sells his future interest, he's out of the picture. When daddy dies, it goes to this other party. You can sell your future interest. There's no problem with that. Now, let me answer Jolene's question, right? So, Rebecca, let's go back to the first part.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a valid inter vivos conveyance? That's the question for you.
Yes.
Okay, you say yes. How come?
Well, it was given during life, and what was
What is it? Be precise.
Meaning the future interest.
Yes. That is the key to this question, right? It is a valid inter vivos gift. The answer is yes. Okay, let's see what we did. Whoa, good job, guys. Very good. Okay. The answer is yes, it is a valid inter vivos gift, 80%. Very good. And the reason why is what's given now is the future interest, right? This is the Gruen case from last week. The future interest is conveyed immediately, even though the painting's still hanging in the father's apartment. What's given immediately is the red stick. It's the future interest. And that is conveyed inter vivos during life, and therefore it's valid. One of you put C. I don't know what to do with you. Whatever. You screw up the numbers. One of you put C. Jolene, does that get to your question?
Yes.
Good. Kendra?
So, because inter vivos doesn't have to be in writing, right, or have witnesses? Because how would you prove that?
These sorts of things should be in writing. Remember the statute of frauds, your favorite thing in the world from contracts? Conveyances for property need to be in writing.
But I thought you just said inter vivos doesn't.
You don't need witnesses. Oh, right. Meaning, I can just write this on a napkin, sign it, and give you that napkin. That's a valid statute of frauds. Remember the napkin case, right? It doesn't have to have the formalities of having two independent witnesses verify it. That's the big difference. Yeah.
So what you were just saying that what's being conveyed is the future interest, not the actual covenant.
Yes. Yes. You're literally giving the red stick, the future interest, which the son holds on to. And what's the evidence of this future interest? The conveyance, the document. Kendra again.
So if the son didn't know about this, or how would it then be testamentary? Would it be if the son didn't know about this until the dad died and read it in his will?
Okay, so if it's in a will, by definition, that's testamentary, right? The point is, this conveyance was given from the father to the son on his 21st birthday, whatever it was, right? It was given, this conveyance, I'll close this, right? This conveyance, painting from dad to dad for his life, that was given to him on his 21st birthday. That was his proof that he bore a future interest, that was his to keep. And if he wanted to, he could have, I think someone asked us a minute ago, he could sell his future interest. There's not a problem with that. Let's say he really needs the money. He's like, yeah, my dad's not doing so well, right? Go sell it to an art dealer. And the art dealer gets it when the father's life estate terminates, when he dies. Andrew?
Could you sell a future life estate?
Ask that next week. We'll do something like that next week. I don't want to go too far ahead. These get really complicated when we start selling future interest. But this one's easy because it's a fee simple future interest. Yeah, Marcelo.
Okay, so you said fee simple. You have the entire bundle of sticks.
Yeah, both sticks.
So the dad has the entire bundle of sticks.
The dad had them until he wrote this conveyance. Once he wrote this conveyance, he chopped up his bundle.
Okay.
Right? Again, the hardest part is you have to assume that the father had fee simple at the outset. Now, that's not always the case. I promise you in an exam, I promise you, someone will sell property they don't own, right? They'll convey property they don't actually have. So maybe the father didn't actually have fee simple, right? Maybe the father only had a life estate himself. Maybe he lied to his son. Assume people lie, right? I'm giving the easy one here. I'm saying the father had fee simple, no questions. That doesn't have to be the case. And imagine a conveyance like 3 or 4 people involved. You can start seeing why this gets complicated. We'll start off really simple. Really simple. Yeah, Lance?
So, given him the future interest during his life.
Good.
So it's inter vivos, but his present interest doesn't happen until after he dies, so wouldn't that be testimony?
The interest being given now during life is a future interest. It's confusing, but I can give you a future interest today. It only matures at the death of the father, right? But what I'm giving you today, that makes it inter vivos. Make sense? What else? Yes, sir.
The son dies before the father, he has no heirs.
So this is why this phrase "and its heirs matter," right? Let's say the son dies. Okay. First, let's assume he has heirs, right? Let's say there's a grandson, right? The grandson then steps into the shoes of the son, and he gets the painting. Now, your question: students love this hypothetical. someone dies with no heirs, right? I don't know why. Students love this question. Virtually everyone has heirs somewhere, right? Unless my exam question has like a plague or a zombie apocalypse or something, right? Where like the entire world dies, there are heirs, I promise you. Now, there was actually a case a couple of years ago. There was a guy who survived the Holocaust. Basically, his entire family was wiped out. And he had no children. He died a multimillionaire without a will. So all these people came out of the woodwork saying, oh, Uncle so-and-so, right? But that's the outlier. Most people have heirs, right? In the event that there are no heirs, I'm going to teach you this word, and I'm never going to say it again, a sheet, right? This is when you die with no heirs. When you die with no heirs, it's called a sheet. The property goes to the state. The government takes it. But this is very rare. There are very few cases where a person dies with no heirs. Usually, it's not worth fighting over. But you have a millionaire, they'll find your 18th cousin twice removed, right? There's someone down the books.
So yeah, I just wanted to confirm that. So it doesn't have to be like your children.
No. Heirs can be a distant cousin, right? You know, fourth cousin twice removed, you know, through marriage. But there are statutes that govern various degrees of family. But it doesn't just mean kids. Now, heirs is much more broad than that. Basically, everyone's heir. So, just in other words, on the exam, if you write this person has no heirs, you're almost certainly wrong. Again, unless the fact pattern is like an apocalypse or like, you know, a plague or like you're on a deserted island or something, they have heirs. But fair question. That's another hand. Mike?
I don't know if it's for later maybe, but dying a sheet make a difference if you have a will versus not?
Well, if you have a will, your property can go to whoever you want, right? The reason why people die without a will are in trouble, how is the government to know who the money would go to, right? Let's say I die, I leave money like my dog, right? Or leave it to a charity. I'm not related to them, but I can do that. But when you die without a will, it's the government says, all right, we'll give it to your relatives. And there's a specific statute which specifies you have kids, you have a spouse, they chop up different ways. Kendra?
So if you leave all your money to your dog, what happens?
So be precise. You leave the money to a trust for the benefit of your dog. Dogs can't inherit property. I was being facetious, but I'll indulge. But you can basically leave money to a trust for the benefit of your dog.
Oh, and after the dog dies, they can do whatever they want?
You can say after the dog dies, the money goes somewhere else. That the trust exists only so long as the dog is alive. Yeah, Natalia. You give a future interest today, right? With that future interest, can I take the painting off the guy's wall? No. It's basically a promise that after he dies, I get it. So when I say it matures, that means once the father dies, I can take it off his wall, right? I now have both the present interest and the future interest. My fee simple reunites. Yeah, Neiman, sorry.
You sell your future interest.
Yeah.
And the father dies, the present interest goes to you.
No.
There's no.
Once you sell your future interest, you're out of the picture. The other person now has it.
You never get the present. It doesn't.
That's the point of selling it. You're cutting yourself out of the picture.
But I thought the fee simple transferred to the heir.
No. Again, the father didn't give it to his heirs. Read the transaction. It doesn't say painting from dad to dad's heirs. It says painting from dad to dad's son, right? Mm-hmm. The son is an individual. He can do whatever he wants with it. If he sells his future interest, painting's out of his picture. Doesn't ever get it. Brittany?
So I think the present interest does not transfer
until death. The father keeps.
Only if the son did not sell his
yes.
future interest.
Okay. Yeah, whoever is the purchaser of the future interest, that's where we get the present interest, right?
Okay.
Right? In other words, okay, I see your question. Thank you for clarifying that, right? When you sell your future interest, you're cutting yourself out of the picture. When the fee simple reunites, the future interest now goes to the present interest in the same person, whoever purchased it. But yeah, that clarified it. Thank you for that question. Yep, Marcella.
So then how does the son have a fee simple if it says if he's giving the future interest to the heirs?
No. But again, the phrase "and his heirs" that signifies a future interest of fee simple, right? It signifies that after the father dies, he'll have fee simple. When you see "and his heirs," that just means fee simple. That's what that means.
So then after he dies.
After the father dies, the son has it in fee simple, right? He can leave it to his heirs if he wants, or he can give it to his trust for his dog, whatever he wants, right? Maybe the dog likes the painting. But he can do whatever he wants with it. Go ahead.
Just want to make sure that the transfer of the future interest makes the inter vivos conveyance valid.
Yes.
And then the writing, where there are no witnesses needed, detailing that future interest makes it.
Yeah, it's written.
Gives you proof.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. Very good. Good statement. Yeah. Interest.
If the son sells a future interest, can he sell just part of it, or does he have to sell all of it?
You can do whatever you want, and it gets really complicated. So let's say, oh, I don't want to do it. The son can convey whatever he wants. He can even say, after my father dies, you can keep it for 20 years, and I get it, right? I don't want to go much more than that, but you can get really complicated. Or the son can say, you can keep this painting as long as it's available in a public museum. But if it's not a public museum, it comes back to me. You see where this is going, right? Marcella again.
So then, since the dad no longer has fee simple since it's given to the son, then wouldn't it be like what Brittany said, the life estate?
The father's a life estate, that's right. Okay. Right, so let's we're doing this eventually, right? So at the first step, right? The very first step, the dad has fee simple absolute, right? But after the conveyance, I'll write it like this for you. The dad has a life estate, which is a present interest. And the son has, well, it's called a remainder, okay? A future interest, okay? So the dad has a present interest, life estate, and the son has a future interest called remainder, okay? And I'm going to give you something more to make it even more complicated. He has a remainder in fee simple. What? Right? Because when the father dies, the son now has it in fee simple. When you're deciding what kind of future interest person has, you say he will have fee simple. His remainder will be in fee simple. So this is the correct, not correct, but a thorough way of breaking down this transaction. That the father had a fee simple. Had makes it even clear, right? The father had a fee simple absolute, the present and future interest. After the conveyance, the dad has a life estate, keeps it for his life. That's his present interest. And the son has a remainder. And fee simple, that's his future interest. Now, when the dad dies, right, the son has a fee simple, which is the present and the future interest. That's the key point. When the dad dies, the son now has a fee simple because he's with the present and the future interest, the red stick and the blue stick. Seriously, 30 minutes on one sentence, right? I told you this is heavy stuff, right? 30 minutes on a single sentence. Yes, ma'am.
Once you give the future interest, can you retract it?
Nope. No backsies, right? It's a gift. It's done. You can't rescind it. Once the father wrote out this conveyance, he's stuck with his life estate. He can't get back the future interest. Which is why this business of, oh yeah, son, please destroy this letter, right? You know, not exactly, but it worked out in this case. Marcos.
Is it possible to sell your present interest?
Yes, you can.
Future?
Yes, you can. Yeah, you can do almost anything, and it gets really complicated. But yeah, you can do that. Rob in the back.
Well, let me go back to that. But I mean, if the son did die and he had nobody,
Oh, evasion. No.
give it back to somebody else.
If the son has no heirs, he should probably write a will. But he has heirs. Trust me, everyone has heirs. Students love asking if someone has no heirs. I don't know why every semester, but Rob, he has heirs. Yeah, the son has heirs. Trust me, he'll have heirs. Someone will come up and want that painting. It was a $20 million painting. They'll find an heir. In fact, there actually are people who do this. That they're basically treasure hunters. That when someone dies without a will, who's very wealthy, they search genealogy to try and find heirs, and they try and take a cut of it. This is like an actual job people do. So, yeah, involves math though, so it's a problem. Arlette.
Are we going to further expand on what remainder means?
Oh, of course we are. Of course we are. It's the next month of your life, yeah. There are so many different kinds of remainders, your head will explode, yeah. Keep it simple for now. All right, everyone at least get this much. Get these 4 steps. All right, go. Again, the video is working. Go back and watch this again later if it didn't make sense, but I think I beat this to death as much as I could. 30 minutes on a single sentence, right? Okay. Now you ask yourself, Josh, why? Right? Why do we have this insanely complicated, incoherent system? Right? Like, why on earth do we have this? Okay? And the answer is, I don't have a good reason for you. The answer is history. There was at no point in human history where someone wrote down and said, you know what would be a very good way of managing property? This stuff, right? With fee simple and remainders. No one ever did that. The reason why I assigned that brief essay from Cardozo, which includes some stuff from Olive Wendell Holmes, is to give you the background of why you're going to be suffering so much for the next month or so. This topic is largely a function of history. And Holmes, who is one of the, I think, probably the most overrated justice after John Marshall, but he said, it is revolting to have no better reason for a rule than it was laid down at the time of Henry IV. And it is still more revolting if the grounds on which it was laid down have vanished long since, and the rule simply persists from imitation of the past. Almost all of property that you'll learn is premised on imitating the past. That if some judge approved of a conveyance 500 years ago, we have to use the same language over and over again. Why do we say "and his heirs" if it doesn't make sense? Because some judge at some point in the distant past said you need to say "and his heirs." So lawyers keep using the phrase over and over again. Right? This is how legal doctrine develops. Okay? But this is Cardozo, one of the first, one of the most prominent New York jurists. Palsgraf, it was him, right? Miss poor Miss Palsgraf, right? He wrote the opinion. Now, I'll give you a brief history lesson. Law students hate history; they confess not to know it. I assume you know nothing, but I'll give you a basic background. The beginning of this property doctrine began when the Anglos met the Saxons. Yeah, Anglo-Saxons, right? When you have what's called the Norman invasion of England, where basically the French invaded what's today's England. This is the phrase Anglo-Saxon, and the Normannic tribes. And this created a system known as feudalism. William the Conqueror was one of the major players in this field. And I love this little cartoon. It explains it much better than the book does. What you have to understand is that under feudalism, everyone had a place in society, right? There wasn't money like we have today. There was money, sure, there were taxes. But people generally weren't paid in wages the same way they're paid today. People were paid with what were called services, okay? So let me walk you through this. At the very top of the pyramid was the king, or the queen, as it were. And it was understood that the king, as sovereign, owned all the property in the realm. But of course, the king couldn't manage all the property on his own. So he would convey land to the nobles, right? And the nobles would get a plot of land and they would have their estate, right? They would have their interest in land. Now, you don't expect the nobles to farm their own land, and you wouldn't expect the nobles to protect their own land. So they needed other people in this economy. For example, the knights were in charge of providing protection for the land. And who would be responsible for farming it? The peasants, or the villeins, if you were. Villains is not a bad word, but it referred to the people who actually tended to the land. So here's how it worked. The king would give some land to the nobles. The nobles would then give some land to the knights. By the way, Fief, which meant land, is related to fee. Fee simple, fief simple, they're the same word. So fief or fee, fee, fi, fa, fum, right? It means land. See? They would then, in turn, give land to the peasants. Now, the peasants didn't own the land themselves. They were merely responsible for farming it. But this is how land went from the top down, but also went the other way around. So, in exchange for getting a piece of land, the peasants would give food and various services to the knights. And the knights would take some of that food and eat it, but they would also give it to the nobles. And the knights would also provide protection, fighting crusades, whatever the war happens to be. And if the king needed service, the noble would dispatch their knights to go serve in the king's latest war. Okay, everyone follow the general gist. This was an entire economy premised on people trading land for services. It was called feudalism. People would get a plot of land, and they were then required to deliver up services in response to that land. Okay, everyone with me so far? Okay, these services, is not just farming, were called incidents. I-N-C-I-D-E-N-T-S, right? They're called incidents. And these were responsibilities that a person had to have. And there were various traditions, right, to signify that I'm living on so-and-so's land. And one of these became livery of Seisin. We discussed, remember that clump of dirt that's wiggling, right? Very often, people who were on a piece of land had a responsibility to do something every year to remind them they own the land. Deliver a red rose or deliver some gold coins, whatever it is. There's one, the leap, the puff, and the fart, which is my favorite one in the reading, right? It's exactly what it sounds like. You had to do certain things every year to remind people of the performing of these services. Okay? Now, this pyramid looks very neat, right? This pyramid is very neat. It's only 4 rungs. But it became very complicated, right? Because let's say, there's a noble here that said, I'm big stuff, right? I want to give land to another noble to get some stuff for him. So you insert another rung. And the knight's like, I'm tired of fighting these damn wars. I want to give my land to another knight so I can retire. So it would add another rung here. And what happens is, instead of having 4 tiers, it became very complicated of who owns what. Okay? This is called sub-infeudation. You don't need to know that word. The word sub-infeudation. You don't need to. No. You don't have to cross every notes, but it's called sub. You rip out the page. Oh God. I'll give you some history. Sub-infeudation, right? And there's also something called substitution, right, where you could substitute someone else in your place on the manor. Now, the king didn't like this very much. Why? Because it was used as a way to avoid taxes. Whenever you transferred land formally, you paid a tax on it. But if you did this substitution or sub-infeudation, you avoided the taxes. So eventually the king said, we're going to ban sub-infeudation. But the consequence of this created this awful system of estates where a person would only own land for so long as the conveyance allowed. And very often, property would be vested in a single family, in which Downton Abbey, for example, right? Property would be stuck to a single family, and they can never get it out of the family. Or you say, I give this property to my son, and when my son dies, they give it to my grandson, right? In other words, you don't trust your son to dispose of it himself. And all of these games designed to keep land in the family became very effective. So effective, in fact, that this entire system developed. Right? So to grossly summarize, right? You had the services, right? You had people of the cloth, right? The priests. You had the knights who provided protection. And you had the serfs who provided the farming. And all these people were mishmashing together in this bizarre economy. Okay. Here's a picture of the average feudal manor. The reason why there are all these stripes is that each stripe would be given to a different person, right? So one person was responsible for managing this plot of land, and he was able to keep some of the food he grows and give some of it away, right? Here's another picture of the first field, the second field, the third field. This is what's called crop rotation. They wouldn't farm the land every year. They let it go fallow. That way it'll be more fertile for other growings. That's what we got. Okay. So this is a picture of live-year Seisin, for example. All right. So any questions on? This is a very gross, brief summary, which I don't expect you to know, but this gives you some background. Megan.
Were they more like tenants, like rather than property owners?
What do you mean by tenant?
They just staying on.
What's a tenant?
Like they just rent the land.
You ever wonder where the first landlord came from? Landlord, tenant. They were literally the landlords, the lord of the land. And the phrase tenant, which today usually focuses on renting, means that you're not permanently on the land. You don't have fee simple. So in fact, the entire notion of landlord-tenant law stems from this idea of feudalism. That's why they're called tenants. The villains, the serfs, they were tenants on the land. They were there just as long as the king's grace or the lord's grace allowed. So other questions on this? All right. So now let's dive into this. I gave you a little bit of a brief introduction with a stupid question, which took us 30 minutes, which was exactly how long it takes to take. Mike, you next? Yes, sir. Mike, what does the word estate mean? Estate. Estate. What does this word mean?
Pretty much a life, or the bundle of everything, the larger bundle of rights of one possession.
Okay, Megan, what's an estate? What does that word mean?
I think of the word like status.
Status? Okay, status of what?
Like the interest in the property.
Whose interest?
The person alive.
Can a person not yet born have an interest?
Yes, they could.
Yeah. Audrey, what's an estate? What does this word mean? It's a very important word we'll spend a lot of time on. So it refers to dirt, soil. Max?
Like the power within a family line.
The power of family to do what?
Power to sell their property, their overall status as a person, family.
So I'll give you my definition, which you're free to use or use. But the question of what an estate is, in my mind at least, is really getting at two different things, right? Two different elements. So who owns it, right? It's asking who has the property. But the second one is what trips students up all the time. When they own it. Okay? When I ask you to describe an estate, and I'll ask you this 1,000,000 times a semester, to describe an estate, I'm not only asking you who owns it, I'm also asking you when do they own it? Let's go back to our question at the outset of class, right? Right? Daisy, if I were to say to you, describe the father's estate in the painting, what would you tell me? What's the father's estate with respect to the painting?
Well, he has a life estate.
Very good.
He owns it as well as
Perfect answer, right? If I ask you, what's the father's estate in the painting, I'm asking you, as Tracy said, what's his interest? And his present interest is a life estate. Tracy, does the father have a future interest? No, he's dead, right? When he dies, it's gone. Okay? Then Hannah, if I said, what's the son's estate in the painting? How would you answer my question?
I mean, he has the future interest, but
What do you call that? What do you call that future interest? Check your notes. Very good. Remainder. So if I said, Hannah, what's described for me the son's estate in the painting, what would you say? Well, when? What kind of interest is remainder? Very good. So his future interest is remainder. What's his present interest? Does he have one? Very good. So you're summarized, right? The father's estate. Present interest, his life estate. Future interest, 0. The son. Present interest, 0. Nothing. Future interest is a remainder. Right? That's what I want you to think about when I say, what's a person's estate? You should be describing for me who owns it and when do they own it, right? So it's not enough to give me a name. You have to say, when do they own it? Present or future interest. You can have both, right? It's possible to have both. Maybe you have one, maybe you have the other, but you have to give me the who owns it and when do they own it. Because estates are measured by some duration. An estate can last forever. An estate can last for a person's life. An estate can last for a term of years. Can last as long as a condition is satisfied. There are different ways of measuring an estate. But you need to be able to measure that when I ask you about these things. Right? In fact, the book has these diagrams. I don't know if they're helpful for you or not. I go back and forth with them, right? But the idea of a fee simple is it goes from the deed, the conveyance, to infinity. Right? That's what the little sideway 8 means. The sideway 8 is infinity. It lasts forever. Whereas this one's a life estate. Oh, it's our detail. It's a similar thing, but it ends at death. Right? Don't worry about the fee tail. We'll get to that next class. Okay. Yeah, Mike.
So in the example, the son's future interest was a remainder. There wasn't.
Yes.
It's not there's not an estate name or title for it like that.
Well, it's called a remainder. I'll leave it there for now.
Okay.
It gets more complicated. That's a remainder. Yes, Jordan.
so the fee simple is not really infinity, it's just their life, right?
Well, be careful, right? No one lives forever, right?
Right.
No one lives forever. So you only have it as long as you're alive. But here's the key thing. You can control it after your death.
Right.
Once you die, you can control where it goes. And you can say, I want this to be deposited in a trust for the benefit of a church. And as long as that church is in existence, that money goes on and on and on. But the key point is you control it after your death. When you have fee simple, when you have the present and future interest, you control where it goes. If you leave a life estate, your ingrate son can sell the painting before you're even dead, right? He can do whatever he wants. But when you have both sticks, you control it. And that was often what happened with the feudalism, right? If you had a very wealthy father who, say, didn't like his son very much, this happened, he could say, screw this, son, I'm giving it to you for your life. And then to my grandson when you're dead, because he trusted the grandson but not the son. He's basically cutting the son out of the loop. The son can't dictate what happens. He's just there for life, and once he dies, he dies. Or even worse, I give it to my son until my other son gets back from the Crusades and he gets it. You can do that also. You can cut short an estate. You can do lots of crazy stuff. That's an example of this term. Yeah, Julian.
Sorry, you just confused me.
Oh no, so good. It's been so good.
So, Dad had fee simple.
Yeah, he had fee simple.
He had fee simple.
He had fee simple. Good.
He gave it to the son. You get future interest to the son, so now he has a life estate.
Good.
The son has remainder in the fee simple.
Good.
Now, when the part you confused me on was when you said you have it until the other son returns.
That's a totally different example. I made it up.
Okay, so
okay.
What does the first son have when that happens?
You'll just about 3 weeks. I don't want to confuse you even more.
All right.
But my point was to answer Jordan's question. You can cut your son off in a lot of different ways.
Okay.
A lot of this was based on fathers not trusting their sons. You know, let's say the son was a drunk or something, right? They don't want to put the family fortune in a drunk. They said, okay, we'll bank the grandson being a better person, or the other brother who's maybe the other brother went out to war, disappeared. Maybe he comes back one day, he'll get the estate. Other hand, I don't know. Questions? Okay. All right. So the book explains, and we already did this. There's certain what's called words, magic words, right? To A and his heirs. To A and his heirs. When you see this phrase, I want you to do something. Right? What's missing here, Christiana? Okay, so Christiana, let's give you an easy question, right? Who's getting the property here in this case?
A.
Okay, A's getting it. Who gave it to A? Do we know? Do we know what the land even is? Okay, very good. So, what I want you to do, right, when you see to A and its heirs, at least for now, put this in your notes. Right, Blackacre from O to A and its heirs. Okay. Now, what the hell is Blackacre, right? Follow me along here. For whatever reason, the reason's been lost to history. Property is always called Blackacre or Whiteacre. We're not exactly sure why, but almost every question I'll give you is either Blackacre or Whiteacre, maybe Greenacre, right? Whatever happens to be, place for me, right? I'll give you a name of a piece of land called Blackacre or Whiteacre. That's your property. From O. Who is O? The original person who had it. I'm not very creative. O is the original person who had it. It makes it very easy for you to remember, right? So when I say from Blackacre from O to A and his heirs, that makes a little bit more sense, right? Because you know a few things, right? Here are my questions. Who owns it? And when do they own it? So originally, who owned Blackacre? By Anthony?
Originally, it was O.
Exactly. And in what was his estate originally?
His estate was present.
Okay, good. Well, finish off. So originally, O, what was his estate? How would you describe it in this case?
I would describe it as the simple absolute.
Very good. So we say that O had a fee simple, right? Meaning he had the present and the future interest. Now, you don't know that, but you have to assume it, at least for now, right? The reason why this to A and his heirs confuses students is you know what happened beforehand. So that's what I'm saying. Put parentheses from Blackacre from O. Just assume, at least for now, that O had a fee simple. Okay, everyone with me, right? O had a fee simple, the present and the future interest. Okay, Elena, what did O do with his fee simple? He had a fee simple. What did he do with it? And what does that mean, giving it to A and his heirs? What did he give A? Exactly. Present and future, right? So O gave his present and future interest to A. So Elena, to finish it up, what is A's estate now? Very good. A has a fee simple. This is the easiest example you have all semester. It gets harder, but this is the easiest one, right? O had a fee simple. He had the present and the future interest. He gave his fee simple to A. Now A is a fee simple. No one died, right? There's no heirs. It's just simple. It's an inter vivos conveyance. O gave his interests to A. Whatever O had, now A has. He has a full bundle of sticks. Again, how do you know O gave A his full bundle of sticks? And his heirs. When you see and his heirs, that signifies that the conveyance is for a fee simple, right? That's what you have to know. If it says and his heirs, you're conveying the full estate. And you need to be careful. You have to say and his heirs. If you don't say it, it might become something else. Right? Be precise. If you're conveying a fee simple, say and his heirs. This is the simplest example all semester. During life, O gives his interest to A, and we know it's a fee simple because it's and his heirs. So on your exam, always make sure you put in your notes, right? Even if I don't say to A and his heirs, say Blackacre from O to A and his heirs. And it will put you on a much more clear footing. Right? Unfortunately, the book doesn't say that. They say to A for life or to A and his heirs. They don't explain why. But you'll know better than that. So questions on this? Yes, ma'am. The phrase "and his heirs" is code, right? The phrase "and his heirs" signifies what's being conveyed as a fee simple, right? That's all it is to it. It has nothing to do with his heirs, which is one that drives students nuts. It's not giving anything to A's heirs. All it's saying is that there's a conveyance of fee simple. So again, don't get thrown off by the fact that it says "and his heirs." In your mind, when you see "and his heirs," think fee simple is being conveyed. That's the answer. Samantha. Don't think of it that way, right? You're not wrong, but if you start thinking of it that way, you'll confuse yourself. A lot of this stuff just doesn't make sense. You have to memorize it. I don't like memorizing in general, but this is one case where there's certain words, if you try and use logic, you'll confuse yourself. You just have to remember "and his heirs" means fee simple. And you'll have a list by the end of this semester, like maybe 12 of these, and you're going to have to memorize them. I don't have a good answer for you. I wish I could say, yes, this is going to make sense, but just think of the serfs and the pyramid. And, yeah. Jordan?
So going back to the questions, I just kind of want to make sure. So when I think of who owns it, I'm thinking of who actually owns it now in time, but we should think about who is the original owner.
Well, but it's two questions, right? Who owns it and when do they own it? So the example I gave at the outset, who owns it? Okay. The father has the present interest in life estate. Right. That's his estate. The son has the future interest in remainder. At any given point in time, someone has to have the present interest and someone has to have the future interest. People might be able to share it, but someone has to have it. So when you're asking about the estate, it's who has the present and who has the future. Might be 2 people, might be 3 people, might be 10 people, right? But you have to give me all the people who are involved. This is easy, only 2 people. It gets a lot worse. So to use this example, right? O had a fee simple, he had the present and future. After this conveyance, A has a fee simple, present and future. Right? Make it present and future. Make sense? Sure? What else? I know this is not easy. I know it's not easy. Try to make it as easy as I can. Okay. All right, let's try some questions. Go to page 258, please, in your books. All right. Let's try number 2. Okay. All right, Chelsea, read number 2 for me, please.
In 1600, O conveys Whitaker to A for life, remainder to the heirs of B. He is alive in 1600 but dies without a will. Soon thereafter, B's heir is C. Subsequently, A dies. What estate does C have?
Okay. So, at the outset of this, Chelsea, right at the very beginning, what is O's estate? The very beginning, before anything happens. Very good. So at the very outset, O has a fee simple. Okay, Chelsea. What's the consequence of this conveyance? From to A for life, remainder to the heirs of B. What's the consequence of that? What does that conveyance do there? Okay, very good. What that means is O had fee simple. He had the present and future interest. He's chopping it up. Excuse me. He's keeping a life estate for O, right? He's giving a life estate to O. That's a present interest. He's giving the future interest to B. And they actually call it remainder there. I won't be so nice. I won't call it remainder, but they call it remainder there. James, does O keep anything from self? Does O keep anything from self?
No.
O does not keep anything from self. With the painting case, the father reserved a life estate for himself. But in this case, the O keeps nothing for himself. He gives A present interest, life estate. He gives the heirs of B, a future interest remainder. Now, Brandy, how do you know if someone's an heir? How do you know someone's an heir? Family tree. So in this case, right, it says B is alive in 1600 but dies without a will, and B's heir is C. How do you know in this case that C is B's heir? Sorry? Yeah, well, duh, right? It's there. But let me ask the question a little bit differently, okay? Can you figure out a person's heirs before they die? In other words, could you calculate B's heirs before B dies? You shake your head no, why not? Yeah, exactly, right? So in this case, B's heir is C. But we only know that, why? Because C outlived B. This is the game of life, right? You have to outlive people to get property. If you're dead, you don't get anything, right? You only know if you get a piece of property as an heir if you outlive them. So in this case, C outlived B. B died without a will. So C is the heir of B. Everyone with me, right? So, Mary, what estate then does C have? Right? A dies. What's C's estate?
The present.
Okay, C has a present interest. Now, how would we describe it?
The life estate.
Well, again, go back to initial conveyance, Mary. It's at the A for life, and to the remainder to the heirs of B. Okay. Who has it? Again, what's the present interest? No. It says to A and to A for life and to B. I'm sorry, I keep it wrong. To A for life, remainder to the heirs of B. What's the present interest? To A for life, remainder to the heirs of B. What's the present interest? Come on, we did this already. What's the present interest here?
Doesn't C have the present interest?
No, you're not right. Read the is C mentioned anywhere in the conveyance?
Oh, no.
Who has the present interest?
A.
And what do we call that present interest?
Life estate.
Very good. So Mary, finish it up. A is a life estate. What's the future interest here?
B has the future.
And what do we call that?
The remainder.
Very good. So Mary, we're almost there. A is a life estate, present interest. B has remainder, future interest. A dies. What happens when A dies? What happens to A's life estate?
Would it merge?
Merge into what? You're almost there.
The future interest? That...
But B's dead.
Oh, well, no. It would merge to...
You're almost there.
I'm getting them all confused. But it would merge and then...
No, I'm staying with you. You're almost there, right? A dies. The life estate terminates. So the present interest merges with what? You're almost there.
The future interest.
And who has a future interest? Who gets a future interest after B dies? Who gets a future interest after B dies?
C.
Why C?
Because
What's the original conveyance? What does it say? Who gets remainder?
B.
No. Remainder to the
Heir.
of.
B.
And who's the heir of B?
C.
Okay, very good. So let's try it one more time. When A dies, right? When A dies, the life estate terminates. Where does that estate now merge with? That interest merge with?
The heirs of B.
Which is?
C.
Bingo. So now what is C's estate? Finish it up.
B simple.
Beautiful. Bravo. Very good, right? C has a fee simple precisely because there was a present interest in A, life estate. Future interest in the heirs of B, remainder. Once B died, right? Once B died, the heirs of C were known. So C was just waiting around for A to die, right? It's kind of morbid, right? But C is chilling, saying, all right, A, you're getting a little old there, right? You have a cough? You look a little pale. Should eat something. Yeah, take a sip, right? So C is waiting around. Slayer statue, right? C is waiting around for A to die. I mean, it's morbid, but that's what you have with the life estate. C, once B dies, and C is identified as the heir, C is just waiting around for A to die. She has her red marker. She has her future interest just waiting in her back pocket. And once A kicks the bucket, A's life estate terminates, she gets the interest. She gets the interest. Okay? So again, the answer here is that C has fee simple because C has the present and the future interest in one. Andrew.
Just to change it up
a
little bit.
This is, when law students do this, it's actually
Just
asking
a
for
little
your
bit.
courting disaster.
What,
I'm messing with
what
you.
happens if A dies before B? Because C can't be an heir until B dies. What happens to the property?
I know the answer, but I don't want to tell you, so it'll confuse you. There is an answer, but I don't want to tell you because it'll really mess you up. So maybe ask me in a couple weeks, okay? I'll girls explain why I'm not going to answer your question. I mean, I know the answer, but when there's not yet an heir of B yet, because B hasn't died, it might actually go back to O for a bit, and O can hang on to it. But I don't want it. Don't listen to me now. That'll confuse you more. So I told you you don't know the answer. Kendra.
So if I'm not an heir until my parents die.
Oh God, that's awful. Yeah. You're not until a person's parents die. They're not an heir yet. That's right.
Are they just next in kin, or what is their title?
Issue is the actual phrase. Your issue. That's what children are called. Issue. Kids have issues, and they are issue. Yeah, but Andrew, I didn't mean to dodge your question, but it's actually a very complicated state where money's held in some of a limbo. It's complicated, but you're not wrong. The reason why this question put in this sequence, B died, then A died. If it was flipped, it'd be a disaster. Other questions on this number 2? All right, let's try number 1. A little bit easier. All right, Brooke, want to read number 1, please? This one's a little bit easier. All right, sorry. Just stop with the question mark.
Okay. O conveys green acre to A and her heirs.
No, number 1, I said.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, number 3, I deliberately skipped that because the spendthrift bill thing is more complicated than it's worth. We'll do number 1, then we'll wrap up. Okay? So go ahead.
1600, O conveys black acre to A for life, then to B forever. What estates do A and B have?
Okay, so answer that question, Brooke.
So A owns Blackacre for life, so he has a life estate.
Uh-huh.
D owns Blackacre. B owns the present interest in Blackacre.
Well, okay, let me slow you down, okay? So O conveys Blackacre, right? So at the outset, what is O's interest at the very beginning? What does O have as... Okay, so O starts off with a fee simple, and he chops it up. O had a present interest and a future interest. Brooke, who does he give the present interest to?
A.
And what do we call that?
Life estate.
Right. O gives A present interest, life estate. What does he do with his future interest? What do we call that? Remainder in, it says forever. That's, I will never use that word phrase again, but this is easier. Remainder in what? After A dies in this question, what does B get? So we call it remainder in, there you go, right? So this one, again, let me summarize for you, right? A has a present interest life estate. B has future interest, remainder, fee simple. Remainder in fee simple, right? And make sure you get that right. Don't just say remainder, remainder in fee simple. Because that tells me you actually know what happens after the death of A. If you just say remainder, it doesn't tell me everything. In fact, you can have remainder in life estate. You can stack one life estate after another, for you for your life, and you for your life, and you for your life. You can do that. No problem with that. But this is going to be specifically remainder in fee simple. Okay? Yes, Brittany?
Getting the vocabulary together.
Yes, ma'am.
Future interest means remainder in fee simple.
There are many kinds of future interests, one of which is a remainder. There are a lot of them.
So to say what O conveyed to B, it's essentially O gives remainder in fee simple to
Yes,
B.
ma'am. Yeah, and
You
that's
wouldn't
that's.
say necessarily future interest.
I would say O gave B a future interest, which is a remainder in fee simple.
Okay.
That's a good full sentence.
Okay, thank you. And then for A, O gives present interest in life estate,
Yeah.
or he gave life estate.
It's a little bit different syntax, but I would say O gave A present interest, a life estate.
A life estate?
You can do either one.
Okay.
I'm not that picky. O in A on, they're fine. But if you say O gave A life estate, present interest, you're fine.
Okay, just hit them all.
Yeah, the remainder in fee simple is the only one I'll be picky about because it's specifying, because there are different kinds of remainders you can give. I'm not going to answer that question now, but there are different kinds of remainders you can give. Okay. Other questions on this? Yes, ma'am.
Going back to 2, so if B had a will, I would have to find out who the heirs of the will specifies.
Yeah, it might be several people. Okay. Yeah, you can have several heirs, in which case gets even more complicated. Remainder might have 4 or 5 co-owners. Okay. Questions? Yes, Kendra?
Just making sure, the black acre, white acre, and green acre, those are all interchangeable?
They're made up places. They're not real. But yeah, I mean, I even sometimes example water acre, dry acre, wet acre, right? I sometimes use the name to give you a hint of what I'm talking about. Like if there's a exam question where there's a piece of land with water on it and a piece of land without, dry acre and wet acre. But it's this law professor thing that we always have these stupid acres, and that you can't escape it. There's a thing in the book about why is a black acre, white acre, and black beans and white beans. We don't know. The reason's been gone to the sands of time. Yes, Samantha?
No, I don't get thinking of remainder and fee simple be the future interest in the whole bundle of sticks, essentially.
Say that one more time, please.
The remainder and fee simple is essentially the person's future interest in the whole bundle of sticks, so that they're
All right, so your question is, can you describe a remainder as a future interest in a bundle of sticks? I'm going to say no, but for a very specific reason. Your future interest is the remainder. That's what you have today. By the time you have the full bundle of sticks, you now have a present interest. So I wouldn't blur the two. Today, I have the future interest remainder, and when this guy dies, I now have the present interest and future interest bundle of sticks. So I wouldn't blend the two. I see what you're getting at, but I wouldn't do that. Oh, yes, Brooke.
Does the phrase two heirs of B, that's different from two
Being his heirs.
Because you're like cutting out B.
Yes, this is the example I gave of the drunk son to cut off B, right? Maybe they don't trust B. But to the heirs, this still signifies a fee simple. Right? Okay. What else? So let me grossly summarize, right? Grossly summarize, because we did a lot today. With you thought 10 pages of reading was a piece of cake, didn't you? Right? No. Rob, you have a question there?
We're not gonna do three.
No, I don't want to do three. Three. What? You guys ask questions, that's fine. But it's more confusing than it's worth, right? So, the nature of this entire topic with estates, you have to keep asking yourself two questions: who owns it, and when do they own it? And for all these questions, you have to identify who has the present interest and who has the future interest. It might be that the same person has both. It might be 2 different people. It might be 10 different people. Right? It might not be clear who has what, but that's what you have to figure out. At least with a simple example, with a fee simple, the person has the present interest and the future interest. But to use the example I led off with class, you can chop up your future interest. You can chop up your fee simple and give the present interest to one person and give the future interest to another. But after a death, they come together. That is, there's a present estate, present interest life estate, future interest remainder. They're separate until death, and they unite, and the person then has to be simple. Questions? Questions going once? I know you got questions. Going twice? All right. See you on Tuesday. Thank you.